All right, next thing. Here we go. We have WowHead. We are going to look at the official 9.1 Chains of Domination patch notes. What I'm going to try to do is, I've done like weekly like overviews of the changes, but now this is all here in one spot, and all of the changes that are happening from 9.0.5, most of them. I don't think all the hotfixes are in it probably, but like just all of the changes that are going to be on this post, and just kind of go over, maybe talk a little bit about classes, I guess. Again, not going like too in depth, but okay. So Korthia, City of Secrets. I'm not going to talk too much about this because to be real with you, I know almost nothing about it. And so like how guilds like ours work is like we usually prepare, like everyone has different jobs. Like most of my preparation that I do is for specifically the raid and how to optimize everything involved with that. Not, like go into all that, but like when we go into new patches, generally speaking, what happens is we log in, and 2 days before the patch comes out, we have a giant write-up from PTR lords like Sanghelios and THD and other people that tells everyone what they're expected and need to do to be ready for raiding at the highest level, right? So I don't know too much about what there is going to be doing Korthia. To be completely honest with you, I've never stepped in it, and I haven't gotten that paper yet. So I don't know what I'm going to need to do here, outside of like a few things. But from what I have been told is, and what I think one of the major criticisms of 9.1 will be, is that I think they pushed a lot of their systems back to 9.2, like their major systems. And I think if you're not someone like me, like I'm going to love this patch because pretty much everything I care about in the game is raiding and like just PvE content with your friends. And then outside of that, outside of the race world first and outside of farm, we just log off and play other games. We all raid log, whole guild, right? So if you're not someone whose main focus is raiding, Mythic Plus, or PvP, so I think a term loosely applied to being a casual player, although you can be a casual player of any of those things, but someone who is there to like do all of the like new content in the patch, I think there is definitely a lacking part in this patch from what I've been told. I could be wrong, but from what I've been told, I think there's not going to be a ton to do outside of those main things. That being said, I think those three things are the main draw and why people play the Seasons of WoW. But like if you're looking for stuff outside of that from like previous patches, I don't think there's gonna be too much. Like yes, there's gonna be reps and stuff like that, but I don't think there's gonna be too much there. And because I'm aware of that, it's probably has something to do with Korthia. So Korthia will be something you certainly want to do right away, but I don't know too much about it, so I won't really talk about it. Sanctum D, if you guys are just coming back to the game, Sanctum D fucking owns. It had one of the cleanest testing cycles I can remember, honestly. Like Nathria's, for example, which is the most recent before now, there was a ton of bugs. We retested multiple mythic fights multiple times, some more than 2. This time it was very streamlined. There was certainly like a normal amount of buggy mechanics, but that's not necessarily what the testing's for. Like the testing is for like seeing later in the fight to make sure there's like not any like weird game breaking things and getting sample size, and that whole process was pretty good. Saw most of every boss on every difficulty, and it all seemed to be working pretty good. In general, without like I might do a separate entire video on this, but like the idea or like thoughts on the raid in general are very good. I think the early part of the raid, if I were to guess on both for mythic guilds and people doing heroic week 1, I think even pugs are going to get up to the 6th boss very easy. I think you're going to kill the 9, Terragru, Remnant, Soul Render, and whatever the other one is. Oh, the Eye of the Jailer. I think you're going to kill all those really easily. I think Painsmith is when pugs are going to start getting destroyed. Fate Scribe is going to probably destroy some pugs. And then Sylvanas doesn't seem too pug unfriendly. Who knows how hard it's going to be tuned. That's basically it. The raid looks really good. The last 4 bosses look incredible. There's another Sludge Fist in all of the ways that you would describe Sludge Fist. Obviously no damage amp, but in my opinion, it's actually a better fight. Fate Scribe, very, very good fight. KT should be a great fight. Sylvanas obviously is perfect. Okay, so that's just basic raid overview. I'll probably at some point go a little bit more in depth on the bosses and talk about what I like and don't like. But that's basically it. Tazavesh is the new mega dungeon. Looks insane. I actually did it like 2 months ago, I think, or maybe a month and a half ago when it was on PTR, like a full clear. The last boss is actually like pretty challenging and probably will be when it's on Mythic Plus next patch. But it just like actually, it looks insane. The bosses are nice. They've got some interesting things of loot in there. I think Mega Dungeons have a history of having like random items that are insane. If I'm remembering back to Karazhan, so before they're added on Mythic Plus, when they're added on Mythic Plus, a bunch of things become insane, like the Mechagon ring and stuff like that. But items that I know they're not on Mythic Plus. I said next patch, not this patch. Relax. But like back in Karazhan, for example, there was like the Ruby trinket, and even before Mythic Plus, that was like super, or not the. It was like Ruby and like the Ring of Fire thing, whatever that was. Like that was insane. And then the one last expansion in BFA, they had the Fire Mage bracers. Pretty much nothing else in there was like really good until it was added in Mythic Plus, and you can get it at a relevant eye level. And then this time, there's like a really sick neck that drops out of there, and maybe one other item that's like used at all. So it's like pretty run-of-the-mill for that. It probably has the best art design of any of the Mega Dungeons, although obviously Karazhan was a redesign. Karazhan was great. So far, they've hit really well on these, and I think this will be really enjoyed. I don't know how much you'll do it. I don't remember in my mind in 7.1 and 8.1 exactly how many times you did these Mega Dungeons. I don't remember like if it was something you farmed every week. I remember it being done more after the first few times once you have it Mythic Plus, which will be in 9.2 probably. So pretty cool though. Pretty nice. Mythic Plus rating. This is okay. I actually need to read everything they're doing here because I know that I don't think they actually added it all the way, but I think one of the biggest problems with Mythic Plus on live for a long time has been that there's been no real reward for going for high Raider IO on live. There's, it's basically just the score attributed to it. People have done it because, like, it's fun to play with your friends and, like, do that, but there's a ton of people who don't because there's just no endgame rewards. It's like, how many PvPers would be PvPing late in the season if they weren't getting a rank 1 Glad title or going for rating, right? Like that rating in the game actually gets you something where the rating for Mythic Plus just strictly does not. Besides clout, and clout is good. You want clout. Actually, a few people routinely on the clout topic, a lot of people have like taken it, have actually like created content creation careers from doing high Mythic Plus. So very real in that way. Clouts, don't underestimate clout, boys. Like the Migos song. But if you were going to ever ask what would increase participation among the top players in PvE in Mythic Plus, it's to give it, copy and paste Glad rating. So recently they gave Mythic Plus its own rating and just took it away from Raider IO basically. And they also changed a couple things because of that, like Keystone Master. And I think also the weekly keys is now a 15 instead of a 14 to get your highest eye level thing, which is a complete non-change, just fine. And also, Keystone Master was a big topic of conversation. I do believe that the reason it was so controversial is because it was framed in a way that made it seem like your workload was going to be a lot higher, but I actually don't believe that's going to be the case. There are two factions of people that are going to the Keystone Master next patch will be majorly more difficult for people who clear it in the first week. Usually now you will just objectively have to do double the amount of dungeons you did before. You'll have to do one at least on Tyrannical and on Fortified to do it week 1. I mean, literally you can't do it in week 1 anymore. You need to do it in week 2. I guess you could do it in week 1, but you just have to do like way higher keys, but probably aren't gonna be possible without the new eye level stuff. But those people will do that. And boosters will have to do like double the amount of boost, I guess, to like do a full KSM thing. But I think less people are going to buy boosts. My actual take on the whole situation is if you were the person that was struggling to get KSM or you really worked for it, what you actually did was over a long period of time, you worked your way up from key level, I'll just make up a number, 8 to 15. And you're probably, at least statistically with like what Blizzard sees, is like Fortified and Tyrannical are completed at around a 3% variance between the two. Like that's how much more Fortified keys are being done. So like if you look at the whole WoW community, the actual like there's a decent amount of people doing Tyrannical even though they don't like it. I personally don't like Tyrannical. I don't do a lot of Mythic Plus though, so my opinion doesn't really matter. People who are farming KSM are doing keys around 10s, 11s, 12s, 13s, 14s, and they push it up over time. I think if you are that player, if this applies to you, you are someone who with your group of friends, or maybe you mix and match, or maybe you pug, but you're just moving up in the key ladder as the season goes on, and maybe you get KSM 2, 3, 4 months in, which I think is most people, by the way, that get KSM. That process for you will be roughly unchanged, because in reality, when you were already working up to 14s, you already had a ton of timed keys anyway, and the amount of keys extra you'll have to do is very minimal compared to before. However, the people it'll majorly change for is the boosts. Because if you want to just get boosted to KSM, you will literally need double the amount of dungeons. And if you wanted to do it week 1, you'll need double the amount of dungeons. But in a way, if you think of it like that, with the old way being roughly unchanged and boosting being the main difference, is if boosting is twice as expensive because you need twice the keys, then I guess players are more incentivized to do it themselves, because boosting just got twice as expensive potentially, and doing it normally is probably going to be about the same. So good chance that, and doing anything in the game, in my opinion, that de-incentivizes people to boost and do it themselves is good. So some people will certainly still buy boosts, no question. I'm sure boosts will be thriving. I just think the way they've designed it is actually kind of de-incentivized people to do it. So, all right, so that's basically all there is there. Although I don't believe they copy and pasted glad things. I think it could have been really easy to do. Just like, this Mythic Plus rating is Rival, this is Duelist, this is Gladiator. They could do an end of season thing where the top 0.1% get like a unique mount and a title. I don't believe they've done that. I could be wrong. But that's a major change. One of the better changes, it's probably something they'll add more on in the future, but I would love for them to further iterate on this Mythic Plus score thing, because in my opinion, there's really no reason to take Raider IO score away from Raider IO and put it in game for basically no reason. The only reason to me would be a way for them to police and score and actually like rank players, give it better rewards, and make it more like give you more incentive to do it. Which I think a lot of people do, by the way. I think Mythic Plus, in my opinion, has actually gotten worse since Legion. I think Legion was actually the better, but that's kind of hard because Legion also just had way better dungeons than any other expansion. But Mythic Plus keeps a lot of people playing the game. With the removal of 10-man raids, I think people play consistently with their friends. That's what most games are, I think, in 2021. Is that like they really thrive off of people wanting to play it with their small group of friends. And Mythic Plus is kind of that. So for WoW. So I think they should focus on it a lot. I think it's like a really good thing for WoW, and they should keep doing that. Flying in Shadowlands. I don't have too much to say about this. I didn't get flying like all of the last 2 expansions because I just never do any of this content. I think you have to get like finish your campaign. There's no chance I do that. But looks like when you get, let's see. Instead of challenging you with a Pathfinder achievement, you instead earn Flying in Shadowlands early on with the newest chapter of Covenant campaign. Upon completing a quest contained in the last sigil storyline, you'll be rewarded with Memories of the Sunless Skies. This is a consumable item that allows all characters on your account with expert riding skill to fly in Bastion, Maldraxxus, Ardenweald, and Revendreth. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Very cool. Shadowlands Season 2. All right, lit. Let's see if they mention anything important here. Shadowlands Season 2 begins on July 6th. With the new season, you'll see increased item levels for rewards. New seasonal rewards for PvP include a new arena title, Unchained Gladiator, wow. A new weapon illusion, wow. New coloration of the Gladiator mount. Not very wow, honestly, kind of lazy, but also it's mounts, so who cares? And new vicious mounts, Alliance and Horde-themed Gorm. Love Gorm. The new seasonal Mythic Plus dungeon affix is Tormented. Servants of the Jailer can be found throughout the dungeon, and they grant you powerful boons. If a servant is not dealt with, they empower the final boss. I personally have seen very little of it, but I personally love the affix. I think it's great. I think it's really cool. I think it offers creativity on certain ones to be skipped. It's going to change on a week-to-week basis. The powers are meaningful enough to actually care about killing them. And there's some where it's like, oh, we might be able to save time by doing the affix. I haven't done it a lot. It's kind of like a mix between Awakened and what's the other one? Awakened and the one that we did this time. Whatever it is. Because like the only reason you did Awakened was like to do skips, but you didn't get buffs. But it's like you're getting the kind of like a prideful buff, but it's permanent for the rest of the dungeon. And it like keeps ramping, but you're also getting the 4 lieutenants Awakened thing. People will say they hate it. I think it's going to take a lot of time for the mass public to do it. You have to keep in mind that anytime anyone in the WoW community is reacting to anything new, good or bad, the response will be overwhelmingly negative because a lot of people hate WoW. So it's going to take time for people to play it. I think it'll end up being pretty good. Certainly a decent Mythic Plus affix at that. I don't think it'll be anywhere near the low tier of seasonal affixes, low rolling a seasonal affix like Infested and Beguiling. It's certainly better than that. Let's see. Additionally, Layer 10 and Torghast. Yeah, I mean, honestly, if you're coming back to the game, Torghast isn't different. And this will remain for the rest of the expansion, but as long as Torghast is something you have to do weekly to get a currency that can only be farmed there that upgrades your legendaries, it will always be boring, meaningless, repetitive content, because to make it hard and challenging enough for it to actually be good, people would complain and did complain because they wanted to just get in and get out and get their weekly content. So nothing's changed with Torghast. It's still exactly that, a chore. And hopefully later in the expansion, they decide to go away with that being the only way to get that weekly currency. And hopefully they can do something Mage Tower-esque with that. I think a lot of people will point to Twisting Corridors being what should have been the Mage Tower, but obviously that missed the mark. Hoping they do something like that later in the expansion. New mounts, pets, achievements, transmog, and more. Wow. Oh, wait. They don't have anything. They just have a picture. Okay, that looks sick. Where do you get that? Where do you get that? Okay, someone in chat said that's a hand. I mean, yeah, dude. It's a hand, bro. You will never get it. That's what THD said. Okay, fucking bet. Bet, bro. I'll fucking get it. How do you get it, chat? Glory mount? Oh yeah, I am never gonna get it. Good thing we did that like college bro puffing their chest out bet thing and didn't actually bet anything because I would have lost, you know? Cool. All right, classes. Death Knight. AMZ as a DPS DK player has been mostly nerfed. It now is still a 2-minute cooldown, 2-second duration less, doesn't really matter, but it has an absorb cap based on your health. Do not listen to any of the YouTube comments. This was not my fault. Ian Hazakostas tried to slander my name, and it didn't work. I'm pretty sure. So all good. It's definitely much worse for DPS DKs if you use it as a blood DK and combine it with things like health increases. So Vamp Blood, or Rally or something like that. You can get the absorb cap to a point where a Blood DK AMZ will act somewhat similarly to what a AMZ looked like in Castle Nathria. So Blood DK, it's better for Blood than it is for DK or DPS DK because of the way it works. I hope after this patch or with some time in this patch, if there's a 9.1.5, they look at the absorb cap, realize it's a bad idea, and change it in other ways, either by increasing the cooldown by a lot and certainly like having its duration. But the absorb cap is just always a bad idea, in my opinion. Chains of Ice now has a spell highlight on the action bar when it has 20 stacks of Cold Heart. Very wow. Doesn't help most players because there's a ton of weak auras for this. It's part of like most common weak aura profiles, but for like newer players, it'll make that more obvious when you have to do that. Also, Frost, very fun. You should play that. Blood damage of all spells increased by 6%. Unfortunately, that does not include auto attack, so it doesn't really help their single target all that much, although a very well needed buff. They'll probably end up buffing Blood DK damage a couple more times maybe throughout the expansion. It usually takes them about enough time. Also, just small note on tank tuning is they've done more tank tuning in 9.1, 9.0 to 9.1, assuming nothing else changes from right now, than they usually do in entire expansions. If you've played for a long time, they usually do a beta tuning pass for tanks, and then right around like the second or third patch, they do one more and barely change anything. And they've done, I promise you, they've done more in this patch changing tanks than they have in usually entire expansions. So very, very, very cool that they're paying more attention to that. Love that. And tanks are, at least in raid content, won't speak on Mythic Plus at all, are very balanced. You could run pretty much any of them. Very good. Fix an issue. You got cause haste from pheromones. Not sure about that. Fix an issue that prevented this from proccing. Yeah, who knows. Demon Hunters, Soul Rending. Okay, so they buffed Soul Rending. So I noticed, so Demon Hunters are still like pretty tanky, but like they were noticeably worse from last expansion. I think they got a lot of feedback within the Havoc community that they didn't feel as tanky. I think a big major difference is they can't like blade dance mechanics in Mythic Plus anymore. But yeah, that's just a nice change. They haven't really changed anything. You still get the same leech while in meta, but just outside of meta, you just have a little bit more leech. That's nice. Fix an issue that prevented the hunt from hitting stealth enemies in its path. Fix an issue that prevented Imprison from being used on targets that were immune to charm effects. Lit, love that. They buffed a bunch of stuff for Havoc. Most of their single target E abilities have been buffed by 15%. That's not a double buff, by the way, the Annihilation and Chaos Strike, just in case you're confused. Same with these two. It's just each of them individually. They nerfed this a little bit, which in my opinion didn't need to be done, because I believe they nerfed Unbound Chaos strictly because of Phase 1 Denathrius, when there's basically nothing important in this next raid that's anywhere close to the amount of ads that you'll be AoEing at one time. And it was just nerfed for the wrong reason for that, specifically. They increased Netherwalk to 6 seconds from 5 seconds. Unbound Chaos is Giga good in Mythic Plus. I'm aware of that, yeah. I don't think it was broken in Mythic Plus. I don't think you were seeing situations where Havoc was the only melee you could bring, right? It was the best possible DPS in the first phase of Denathrius. Like, I mean, if you raid with a good Havoc DH, they are going to end P1 multiple thousands of DPS higher than everyone else, so. Desperate Instincts. This is the auto blur. It now triggers blur at 50% reduced duration and 50% reduced cooldown when you fall below 35% health. I actually think auto blur in the past, like I've played DH a few times in progression, as something that I think is kind of underrated. There's fights where it's actually like pretty good value. Let's see, Conduit. I don't know anything about DH's Conduits. Fix an issue, second strike. Okay, yeah. If you play Demon Hunter, that probably means something to you. Give you a second to read it. Very cool. Move down to Druid. So Well-Honed Instincts, probably the best defensive conduit in the game, at least in PvE. The only one I could think of that's stronger than that is the Ellie Shaman, or just all Shaman specs being able to get Earth Ellie, especially if you're Primal Earth Ellie. That one might be better, but it's like, you know, that, I mean, this is just absurdly powerful. So they just increased the like internal cooldown. You think you get a debuff for it that allows it to go off again. Okay, fix an issue that prevented adaptive swarms from spreading if the druid... Yeah, fix an issue of adaptive swarm. Yeah, that's a matter. Fix an issue that allowed Starfall and Convoke to target creatures under turn evil. Okay, yeah, good. So just change another thing. Yeah, anytime. So Starfall and Convoke should never break CC, right? It should never happen. But like, there's been a couple things this expansion. There was a Soulbind earlier that did it too. That randomly would do that, but not anymore. Always good to fix stuff like that. Balance. They buffed a couple of talents, but I don't know if you actually take them now. Maybe I could get a Boomkin expert in here to say like what stuff actually changes. The ones that I do know about was Stellar Drift. So this was old one was like the Starfall while moving thing. Now it actually gives Starfall a cooldown, but it makes Starfall a more bursty CD for the first bit that it's active. So it's in some ways worse, but also some ways better. If you're looking for like a little bit burstier, like there's like in most situations in a raid, when ads spawn, they get pulled in and bursted down. This will actually make it better for that than it used to be, but obviously it's like harder to keep permanent. So be interesting to see how that's used in the raid. Let's see, the free Starfall ignores the cooldown. Cool. And then Boat was nerfed, right? I think Boat was technically what they did was they wanted to reduce. Let's look at it. So this now grants 24% crit and was 40%, and it decreases 3% every second, and it was 8. But because of Convoke being Night Fae, it was obviously so much better because all the damage happened initially. So I don't believe they use this anymore. It's technically, like, just mathematically, it's the exact same. Like, you'll have, I think it's like 3 or 4 seconds in where it has the same crit as it had before, but like with Convoke before you'd use that. But I don't think this will be used anymore. So if you're a Moonkin, I believe you're crafting different legendaries, potentially playing different covenants, but you know, do whatever you want to do. Feral, that doesn't matter. Guardian, wait, what is that? Oh, okay, that's fine. Damn, didn't get a lot of changes here. Fix an issue that caused balance affinity to not increase the range of Nourish. Weird. Fix an issue. Yeah, I don't care about that either. Death Chakram can now properly bounce to targets that are not directly in front of the hunter. I don't know if this change matters too much, but I don't believe the issue with Death Chakram is that, although I'm sure that was one. I think the main one is that if things aren't actually pixel stacked, like Gorfine's Grasp and the whatever the other one is, the Sigil of Chains, it actually just like doesn't spread. It has like really bad coding or something. I don't know if they fixed that, but it's just not good enough for hunters to play Necrolord, at least last I could tell. That's just like what I've heard from our hunters. I don't know if that's still true. Survival buffs across the board. Survival insane in 9.1, potentially 14 of them in one raid comp. Insane. Pets. Classic Pterodax pets and Mop Python pets are now larger in size. Wow, huge buff. Mammoth family. Trample is now instant cast. Insane. And then obviously Bird family, they updraft and stuff, which gives hunters slow fall. Very cool. Mage fixed an issue that prevented shifting power from reducing the cooldown of Alter Time and Spell Steal while Kleptomania was talented. Wow. They nerfed fire. The main thing they nerfed from fire is they made it harder to get 1 minute combust, being just straight up. They just nerfed kindling, and they nerfed their mass AoE potential in Mythic Plus. They definitely still have use. It's not like fire's dead for everything. In fact, fire is commonly underrated after nerfs, just in general. But obviously, if you're a mage, you're fine because you have multiple other specs that are very good. So I won't read all of that, but yeah, they basically just nerf mage. Frost fixed an issue that prevented that from... that's a PvP thing. You would never run that in PvE. Monk, Vent Theory ability now resets when an encounter ends. You don't play that. Fortifying Bruise cooldown now resets when an encounter ends for Windwalker or Mistweaver. Sure. Fix an issue that prevented the damage and healing of Bone Dust Brew from critically striking. Fuck yeah, love bones. Fix an issue that prevented Shamans from being able to use Ankh and... okay. Wait, what? Fix an issue that sometimes prevented Shamans from being able to use Ankh after Forborn Reveries expired. But... okay, but like low-key, how does that have to do with Monk, though? Like, just very low-key, I feel like that shouldn't be here. So fix an issue that prevented Weapons of Order, which is actually the abbreviation of that is WOO, chat, WOO, from stacking with multiple Brewmaster Monks present. Wow. Also, don't do that. Mistweaver. Tiger Palm damage increased by 10%. Wow. Blackout Kick, 10. Wow. Risings, okay, they're all 10%. Just kidding. Spinning Crank Kicks, 20. Enveloping Mist. Reduced mana cost, revival, rank 2, now procs Gust of Mist on each target healed. I've actually heard that this was really good. Or, sorry, it is really good. We've tested and used it a lot. Mistweaver's awesome. But yeah, it's a very, very big buff. Love Mistweaver. Love weed and channeling weed into other people. Soothing Mist channel is no longer interrupted by this. Resplendent Mist now correctly affects Chi-Ji. Wow. Okay, so they just fixed a ton of issues. But probably not the main one, being that they don't do as much damage as other healers. But, you know, what can you do? Fix an issue that prevented Bone Marrow Hops. Just saw that for the first time. Okay, yeah, it's a different con. It makes sense. Fix an issue that caused a Q'd Expel Harm to cancel Spinning Crank Kick. Yes, do not like that. Fix an issue that's preventing Kiefer's Skyreach from increasing the crit strike of Storm, Earth, and Fire images. Dude, I wonder... okay, quick question, chat. Is there any other ability in the history of this game, singular ability, that has had more bugs over time than Storm, Earth, and Fire? And that's also, I'm not forgetting that monks were added in the 4th expansion. Okay, Paladin. Blessing of Winter from Seasons can now be applied to multiple targets simultaneously. Wow. Over here, Holy Flash of Light healing increased by 20%. Infusion of Light consumed by Holy Light now causes it to generate 1 Holy Power. Ashen Hollow damage reduced specifically for Holy Paladin, by the way. Not for other tanks or other classes of Paladin. So red as well. I guess red doesn't play Venthyr though, but Judgment damage reduced by an additional 10%. So they basically just nerfed their damage, increased their mana cost of just full damming, which was part of the problem. Like, certainly they did too much damage, and they had no mana issues. So they added a huge mana penalty to damming the whole fight, like just damn doing, which is good. I think that makes sense. Although I do remember the day they nerfed Holy Paladins. This was the exact list. I believe actually nothing's changed from this. At least these were the lists, I think, right here. And I came in my chat, and everyone was spamming, buy Pally, and yes, they nerfed them by this much, and, you know, obviously you've seen, they're still obviously great, so what can you do? Protection Paladin. Fix an issue that's preventing Righteous Protector reduction from working with DP and Shining Light when the Paladin was using Glyph of the Queen. Just found out that was a glyph. Love that. Clear Mind Conduit effectiveness reduced by 25%. Don't really care. This is the big change. So Disc Spirit Shell has a 50% longer cooldown. Very big nerf to Spirit Shell. That alone. They've nerfed it a lot, but that is a massive nerf, right? Fix an issue that prevented Hold Your Ground from increasing Spirit Shell absorbs. Fix an issue that caused schisms. Okay. Maybe I should just not read any to fix the issue with stuff. Cool. Symbol of Hope has been redesigned. This is pretty big for Holy. Bolsters the morale of raid and party members within 40 yards. They each recover 60 seconds of a cooldown on a major defensive ability, and they regain 18% of their missing mana. The big problem with Symbol of Hope is that this says of their missing mana, meaning that you would have to be for this to be even close to 18%, and it's not just total mana. So it's not nearly as good as it could be for mana gain, especially because this is something you probably usually use early to get on cooldown again, so the first use is basically useless as far as mana is concerned. Being able to recover 60 seconds of a major cooldown is actually really good. There's only 2 classes that have basically an irrelevant ability from this, and that's Rogues getting Crimson Vial reduced and Hunters getting Exil. But basically everyone else has like a real, 1, 2, or 3 minute personal that gets reduced, which is pretty awesome. Very unique. I think that there could be a fight sometime this expansion where that actually is pretty game breaking, but very, very cool change. Like, obviously I like Blizzard's design process when it comes to healers and what they're trying to do. Obviously I don't think they're there yet, but if your all solution to changing healers is, well, okay, just give these classes damage reductions, and then it's like, okay, well, is the way to fix every class in the game to just give them everything else? So like, no, then the game just becomes the same. I think it's totally possible that Holy, Resto Druid, and Mistweaver don't need a damage reduction cooldown to be really viable all the time. They just have to have other niches that are really powerful, right? Stuff that other people can't do. Symbol of Hope is along those lines, right? Like, I don't know if it's powerful enough, or niche enough in the right situation, as damage reductions are pretty much universally good. But I like the idea that they're kind of experimenting in that area, because they kind of need to get that figured out fast, because the raid meta for healers has been basically the same for like 4 years. And it's for the exact same reason, and it kind of hasn't been addressed. Shadow, the only real changes they made to Shadow are they just tried to nerf their single target and buff their dots. This is the right change in my opinion, because I think if there's any criticism of Shadow Priest, although obviously they do a lot of single target, is that they're very one-dimensional. The Shadow Priest you knew of last expansion is, not really a thing anymore. The class that you brought to like spread out multi-dot. They're basically single target drones. They used to be a little bit better at target switching when they spec'd into Void Torrent, but now with their new legendary, they don't have that anymore. So they're basically just like a not too many peaks and valleys, huge damn single target class. So moving a little bit away from that and adding to their dots, because they did nerf their single target. I'm going to make up a number. I believe their single target right now to next patch is like 4% or something like that, but they also scale really well. Although I'm gonna stop you right there with the scaling, because people, almost anytime someone mentions scaling when they're talking about a patch to patch, like, oh, well, this class scales really well, they're usually just fucking making shit up. Scaling is much more noticeable over like the whole scope of an expansion or 2 tiers, but 1 tier, the difference is usually not very big as far as classes being relatively stronger compared to others, not necessarily just within its own spec. So just wanted to point that out. But I do like the idea. If you were to tell me that the nerfs they made to Shadow, or the changes they made to Shadow, is they want them to be less single targety and they want them to have other things that they're good at, I think that's the right thing. However, 25% of already not a lot of damage for dots doesn't do too much in that category, and they're obviously kind of still in the same spot, but the idea is right at least. Okay. Rogue, faint duration increased. Wow. Also, never press that. Okay, sometimes you press it. The only issue with faint for rogues is that it costs energy and it's a GCD. Just because, I mean, dude, here's the thing. When you have a cheat death, it's very rare that you're going to spend resources. When you're already like naturally tankier than other people, like why would you faint before you cheat if you're good, You're just like losing damage. I'm thinking of a better way to put this. If you're a rogue and never faint, and your raid's gonna die, someone's gonna die before you. Like, obviously use it if you're going to die, but like if you're at high health, you don't, like the idea that you need to faint every major point of damage doesn't make sense, because if you're not gonna die, like what are you doing, right? Like, obviously that could be like some kind of a benefit in PvP, no clue about rogue PvP, but in PvE it doesn't really matter too much. It's actually like, I feel like they've kind of lost their vision in PvE for faint for a long period of time. Rogues used to be like the class with the really short cooldown immunity. It, in fact, used to even be able to reduce it even more. And it had the really short cooldown, or it was just like really defensive. It was like, oh, rogues never die. They just faint everything. But over time, like the game has evolved to like focus on throughput so much that you just don't do it anymore. So I would like to see some changes made to faint personally. Serrated Bone Spike, bleed now properly benefits from crit. Very cool. A shield from Cloaked in Shadow's Conduit is now 50% larger, lasts for 4 seconds. Previously had no duration. Wow, and no longer decays while Rogue is out of stealth. That is insane. Shiv now dispels enrage effects regardless of poison application. Wow, probably PvP change, don't really care. Let's see. Assassination. Fix an issue that allowed Doom Blades periodic damage to benefit twice on targets with increased damage taken auras. Oh, I actually didn't know that was a thing. Outlaw. Fix some issues. Don't really know about that. Okay. Sub. They buff Sub. Love Sub. Big damn. Shaman. The cooldown of Vesper Totem is now 1 second, was 1.5, and is now consistent with the global cooldown of all of her totems. Blizzard, you have to look at this. There's a lot of abilities in the game right now that do this. I'm trying to think of some off the top of my head. Is it Unholy Blight? Is Unholy Blight for DK one of the ones where it's randomly 1.5 second GCD instead of 1? There's a bunch. Like Darkness for DH is one of them. It's like stuff like that. It's Unholy Assault. Yeah, it's one of them. Yeah, Grip. I don't know if Grip is 1.5 second, is it? It's spells. It's always spells. It's like random spells on classes that don't normally have spells that get it usually. I think Grip is actually a shorter cooldown. I think you're just mentioning that Grip is on this GCD and it shouldn't be, which I agree, Grip shouldn't be on the GCD. However, I don't think it's a very big deal at all. I think DK mains are very like they're gonna die on the hill that it should be off the GCD. But to be honest with you, man, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. But I mean, there are bigger problems, right? Vesper Totem now inherits 10% of the caster's max HP for its health pool. Fix an issue with Door of Shadows is castable while moving under Spearwalker's Grace. That prevented it from being castable. Okay. I would really like Door of Shadows. I don't know if this will be broken in PvP, but in the beta for this game, they changed Door of Shadows. So one of the soulbinds used to make it so Door of Shadows was instant cast, and they changed it from that to giving it 2 charges instead. I think the instant cast Door of Shadows would not be broken and actually make Venthyr feel a bit better, and it would be very, very nice. So, small side note. Okay, enhance Flame Tongue weapon can now trigger from all damage, was offhand attacks only, fix an issue that prevented Wind Fury Totem from applying to party members. Also, they did fix one more thing too. This isn't for 9.1, I think it was hotfixed, but there was like a problem with Enhance last patch that made like a lot of their melee things reset, and I think there's more bugs too, but I believe they did fix that. So that buff was actually like, I've been told is like pretty significant single target for them. So nice. It's just not listed here because I think it was already hotfixed, but yeah. Shadowbolt's mana cost reduced to 1.5, wow. Dark Pack's Talent Absorb Shield has been increased by 316%. That might be too much. It doesn't seem like that because there's other good things on the row, but like a 1 minute huge absorb like that is so good. Wait, is THD here? Someone summon him and let him give his opinion. Hey man.
Hey, what's up?
Oh my God, you're so loud. Please don't talk until I fix it. All right, so tell the good people what's new and cool about Warlock. These changes in 9.1.
Yeah, they made Dark Pact real. Yeah, that is a big shield. Very good. That thing's like 80% of my health on a 1 minute cooldown in the last 20 seconds. Yep. Very good, very good. And also very cool Shadowbolt mana change, right? Yeah. So if you had too much haste, you ran out of mana. That was a problem BFA, and they finally put it back in again. Affliction basically went from being the best to the worst in pretty much most raid scenarios.
Okay.
Unless there is spread cleave or a lot of AoE, Affliction, not good. That is basically what they did there. And they made it a 2 minute class instead of 3.
All right, so all AF mains, very sad, probably quit the game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then Demo and Destro.
The one change they made to Demo from the Shadows, it's just a talent that was never played. A little bit more reliable now for like specifically Mythic Plus and stuff.
Okay.
And yeah, a Demo single target spec, very big single target. It does the single target because the other 2 specs don't. That's the reason it's there.
And then Destro, big Destro changes.
Destruction. Yeah, Destruction does the, I mean, it's Destro, right? I mean, it does more damn.
That's
Look at
true.
That. Chaos
That's
Bolt,
true.
10%. A talent got buffed that was never played. Really good talent now, actually.
Yep.
Shadowburn. It's back. Yeah.
Yep.
Destro's Destro. It
all right.
fucks.
All right. That's our full Warlock overview. Is there anything you want to say to the people?
Warlocks are never bad.
All right. Excellent. Goodbye, friend. All right. Going on. Warrior. Fixed an issue that prevented Ancient Aftershocks ground effect from hitting stealth targets. Wow. Fix an issue that caused some classes' AoE abilities to incorrectly consume spell reflection. That's PvP, don't care. Arms, Mortal Strike, Deep Wounds, Overpower, and Execute increased. Obviously does not apply to Condemn. I love seeing this. I don't give a shit about arms. I just mean I love seeing Blizzard making changes specifically for PvP and PvE. Historically, when they've made class changes, I can point out a ton that were buffed and nerfed needlessly in one of the forms of content because it was too good in the other, and the nerf made no, or buff made no sense in the other. So just in general, always looking at a class and changing it and identifying whether the problem exists in PvP or PvE and doing it separately unless you think it's obviously nerfed in both. So love seeing that. Then no changes for Fury, which doesn't matter, right? Same change to Prod as well for Execute. Covenants. 40 new Renown levels. Wow. Players who find themselves behind in Renown will always have an increased chance to receive Renown as a reward from all relevant activities. Is this actually a 9.1 change, or are they just saying that the catch-up mechanic will now also just exist in 9.1 exactly as it has in 9.0? It's increased? Oh, let's go, dude. All right. Soul Binds. You can now get 3 new Conduit slots, 1 Potency, 1 Endurance, 1 Finesse, 2 new traits, and 1 Capper trait. No cap. Carrion. Peli G. Mastery nerfed by 10% from Combat Meditation. Clea. Point encourages chance to critically strike for every nearby enemy or ally increase to 2% was 1% up to 6%. I don't know how many people play Clea. I think it's Paladins that are Kyrian, but also don't play Kyrian on Paladin unless you're Ret. So I'm not sure about that. And then obviously Mikey McMilkers. Brawn, huge buffs. It spawns like way faster than it used to. And then obviously bronze damage was also increased. So love that, love that, love that. Rep Pally's Peli G. Oh, never mind. Okay, well then Clea thing doesn't matter. Maybe someone said Mistweavers play it. Also don't care about that. But all good. Necrolord, Plague Deviser Marileth. Couple of things. Plaguey's preemptive strike damage dumps increased to 12% and duration 15 seconds. Wow. One cool thing though, Volatile Solvent has been updated to always grant the player whatever it used to do for fleshing on a humanoid, which means that anytime you cast Fleshcraft, you will have 120 mastery. I believe this is until the Fleshcraft is consumed. However, I learned that from Twitch chat and they constantly lie. So, oh nope, I just heard it in chat. No, it's a 2-minute buff. It's not that. Just as I said, my chat had previously lied, but don't hold your breath. They could be lying now as well. But I mean, that's just a good overall Necrolord buff. I don't know how many people play Marileth, but having 120 mastery permanently is definitely good. But I don't think that Soulbind is too great. Night Fae, they nerfed Burrs by 8%. Dreamweaver, Field of Blossoms duration increased by 20% and haste increased to 15%. Fix an issue. This doesn't matter. Corain, hold the line physical damage reduced to 12% was 15 and further reduced to 6% physical in PvP. Probably PvP change. I haven't even heard of that before. So, okay. This doesn't really matter. Theatar, they just buffed the Shades mastery by 5%. Fix an issue causing Token of Appreciation's application to break stealth effects. They also changed some other things with Token. I believe there was some like crazy shit you could do with Token that I know that does not work anymore. So they did that. Conduits, higher item level versions of most existing conduits can now be found in the world. Changing to a new covenant will now refill your available conduit energy. We could use this time to do a TED Talk on conduit energy. But in short, I don't think conduit energy is that impactful in the game. I think it impacts very few people because most classes actually have very few conduits that would actually change across unless you multi-spec. If you play multiple specs with your same class, it is a extremely annoying, needless system in the game. It is probably the least important thing that has gotten this much flame to ever exist. It probably gets the same amount of mentions and hate as like Titan Forging and Corruption and all that. When those and the Infinite Grind, which are way worse systems but got the same amount of hate. It's more so that it's like, why the fuck is it in the game? Why are you dying on this hill? The reason that they have said recently is, well, if we just took away conduit energy, you would find people, you know, hearthing in between every boss to change conduits. I can tell you there's very few classes in the game that would be doing that. And then also you could make conduits changeable with a tome. And even if you didn't want to do that, you could, I think the thing that would probably solve the most problems is removing conduit energy, but allowing specs to have their own specific soulbind trees. So let's say you play, Naya for both MM and BM if you're a hunter, right? When you change to BM, it should just swap to your already placed BM conduits. I just can't imagine a world where that's a bad system. You'd solve most of the conduit energy problems in general, or what problems would be potentially created with the removal of conduit energy. So I really like that idea. I think that was Dratnos' idea, actually. Okay, so that's my whole take on that. Let's see, higher. Yeah, okay. So and also just another criticism on the conduit side of things is I think it's the better of the two evils, but I feel like conduits have kind of missed the mark. I don't think every bit of borrowed power in an expansion should be insanely impactful, but most conduits, now some, this is not true. Some of them scale insanely high, and they're really important to get upgrades of, but almost all of them don't. Almost all of them, like the difference between the highest eye level and like, you know, a couple under that, or even the base level is almost nothing. But if you were to look at on the other side of the coin, if Blizzard made them insanely powerful, you would hate to be the guy who randomly looted the 226 version of his best conduit like 8 weeks into farm or 8 weeks into progression and have been super weak because of it, right? Like, I think that's objectively worse, right? It's kind of a similar feeling to how it felt in Legion to be someone progressing 3 entire raids, without your best legendary just by the, you know, flip of a coin, basically, right? It feels really shit to be not optimal and it be out of your control. So I think that would actually be worse, but the current system still doesn't. I think somewhere in the middle makes more sense, especially because there's ways in the game to actually like grind conduit levels, right? So Mythic and Mythic Plus enemies auto attack damage reduced by 10%. Kind of talked about this earlier. I actually didn't read the rest of this, but this was the one thing I love this. I'll kind of just restate what I said earlier. It helps bridge the gap between tank classes, because the main thing that makes a tank bad and good at Mythic Plus is certainly damage and utility, you know, like the buff from Demon Hunters and the ability to tank stuff for longer. But the classes that are like really bad for Mythic Plus historically, which is Blood DKs and kind of Prop Paladins, although they've been fine. Both have been fine. You could have done high keys on both. Their main issue is the clear thing that is not there with those classes versus the other classes is they don't have something to survive longer on the initial pull to get threat before, at least in this expansion, you inevitably have to kite if your key's high enough. And that's been the problem. So reducing auto attack damage kind of bridges the gap for those two classes specifically. You know, where your Demon Hunter is going in with Feldev and Meta or potentially Fiery Brand build. Your Warrior going in with Shield Block alone with auto attack being the main portion is going to make them fine. Last expansion, they had much shorter CDs too because of the way that anger management worked. Right, and then Brewmaster doesn't need to be talked about. That's just literally how Brewmaster is designed, is delaying the damage till later in the pull, and they have a strong absorb now. So that will help that. Although I will say, Blizzard, if you're watching this, and I'm sure you're not, but I think one of the things that has happened in this game has been tanking has become less fun to do over time. And I don't mean that in a biased way. Like, that's how it feels for me, because I don't care if I tank or don't tank. All right, moving on. The following changes go live with Season 2 on July 6th. The item levels of rewards from level 60 normal, heroic, and mythic have been increased. This is not something really to look at. It's not too important. Mythic Plus dungeon rewards have had their maximum item level increased by 26. Makes sense. That happens every single patch. And then this is the scaling they're doing. Heroic dungeons, enemy damage has increased by 6%. Oh, that doesn't matter. Mythic Plus, 35%, and enemy health increased by 39%. I don't know. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is I don't know if that's normal. Like, you would have to be a high Mythic Pluser and do math real quick to say if that's more or less than how Mythic Plus normally scales from season to season. It seems normal, so we'll see how that turns out at the actual thing. Obviously, it's usually going to be a little bit harder earlier, but once you get the new gear, it'll be about the same. New dungeon teleports. This is actually cool. Hasn't been talked about in a while because it was announced a long time ago. They added MoP challenge mode ports back and WoD. So if you guys get a level 20 Mythic Plus dungeon in, let's just say, Halls of Atonement, you will be granted a teleport with an 8-hour cooldown to teleport to the front of that instance. It's insanely cool. It's something for people to strive to still do Mythic Plus after they get their Keystone Master, which will like kind of, obviously gives Mythic Plus more relevance. And it gives you a way to port around the map to do all kinds of stuff. It is objectively good. There's nothing bad anyone could say about that. The only bad thing you could say would be, why was this not in the game the last two expansions? Because it is just really that good of an idea. Very good. Yeah, the CD, if it works the way it did before, is the oh, never mind, it says it right here. Yeah, if you complete the mythic dungeon you teleport to, it resets the CD. Yeah. Push a T in the Hall of Holding in Oribos will now offer a keystone to players who don't have a keystone, as long as they have completed at least one Shadowlands dungeon on Mythic Plus difficulty in the season. Okay? Why that's important is the only way you used to ever get a key was to do a key without already having one. So it kind of streamlines that process. And then Push a T also spawns at the end of a Mythic Plus dungeon that are completed before the time limit is reached. So assuming you time it. He'll offer a one-time keystone exchange to any player whose current keystone is at or below the level of the dungeon that was recently completed on time. Keystones that are a higher level than the dungeon that was recently completed on time cannot be traded, including the keystone that was used to start the run. Very good change. Very good change. It allows... One of the many complaints, and so many times have I seen tweets of people in their Mythic Plus groups linking their keys at the end of the week, and they have like 5 King's Rest, or this expansion, I think it's 5 Sanguine, where you have to do those. So it allows you to do more of the dungeons you want to do, to 2 chests to do other dungeons, and less of the ones you don't want to do. So objectively good change. One of the maybe most underrated changes for that game mode this patch. However, I still have a major criticism, especially because this is the way that Diablo 3 works, which is where the whole Mythic Plus system was derived from, Greater Rifts. Why on earth, if you have completed a 24 Necrotic Wake, can you not go up to the dungeon and select any level of Necrotic Wake under a 24 and a 25? It makes no sense why you can't. It would simplify things so much, and if any Mythic Plus player says, no, that wouldn't be good, we wouldn't play the game as much, isn't you completing a bunch of dungeons under the level of the key you actually want to do, and just, timing a 2 chesting at 22 Plaguefall for the, 100th time a season, isn't that literally the definition of, making you play more for no reason? I do not understand that argument at all. It is the absolute definition of you just having, why would anyone want to have to 2 chest a key they've already done to do a key, and have to do that a bunch to do one you might want to do? It's just an objectively better system. Please consider it. It would solve so many problems with Mythic Plus. Make people do it. I think it'd be way more accessible. I also think it'd be fun too. Like if you're watching a Mythic Pluser stream, what you watch them do right now is you watch them attempt a key, and then you watch them chill with their bros and 2 chess keys they've done 1,000 times to get another one they want, and then it becomes hype. Imagine how hype it would be to watch your favorite team of 5 in there for 8 hours trying to time this key that's just fucking impossible, and they finally get it, And there's constant innovation along the way, and they're trying things you couldn't do otherwise. I think it'd be awesome, man. Or give you a certain amount of attempts per day or something, so you don't just do stuff like that. I don't know. I think there's so much potential there. I'm really passionate about WoW PvE, and I think Mythic Plus certainly has it could be. Mythic Plus is great for the game. I just think it could be so much better. Mythic Plus affixes. The weekly affix update rotation has been updated with no other info, so who knows what that means. They nerfed bolstering. They nerfed the health of bolstering. That's good. Bolstering, very lame to play with. Raging. Enrage now increases damage done by 75%, was 100. Yeah, I like the idea of nerfing the affixes just in general. Looks like they're doing that. Because, kind of what's happened in the past with Mythic Plus is people identify weeks that are good and not good, so they push really hard on the weeks they think are easy. People are kind of incentivized to not play the game, which is, weird that you as a dev are, it's kind of the issue with Tyrannical, right? Although, I don't think Tyrannical is as bad as, I think Tyrannical used to be much worse. I think the nerf this expansion made it a little bit better, but yeah, Fortified and Tyrannical do seem a little outdated in general, but... Okay, so yeah, there's that. Storming. Storming's whirlwinds now always move in the same direction, and its movement speed reduced by 30%. Wow. Storming whirlwinds now dissipate once a target is hit. That's actually huge. I don't even do Mythic Plus, and I can see that that's huge. That probably makes Melee's life much easier on this affix, so love that. They nerfed Loyal Stoneborn. That's the thing you can MC. They just nerfed Ingra and Mists. Hakar nerfs are big good, very good. Amarth was nerfed by 15%. Wow. Nalthor, the Siphoner's health was reduced. Very good. Globgrog nerfed. Excellent. Rigged Plague Borers. That's it's funny. Oh, they got rid of the Plague Borers. That's so good. Yeah, if you're just coming back to the game now and you were gone for all of the patch, you missed some spicy stuff, man. Don't really care about any of that. And then we have Ventunax, when the channel for recharge completes, any active shadow rolls will not despawn. And then Theater, Zira the Underhanded has returned on mythic difficulties only. I don't even know what that means. Oppressive banner health reduced by 20%. That was the thing that people were ignoring and just being okay with being slow, right? It's the Rogue first boss on Theater of Pain. Bad change? Okay. Bad change, apparently, chat. Okay, here we go. On to Shards of Domination. Here's where it gets spicy. Empower your gear with Shards of Domination, a new type of powerful gem looted from the bosses lurking within Sanctum. These remnants of the Runecarver's work have long augmented the Jailer's armaments, but now you can seize them for yourself. Very epic wording. You guys should see the... Dratnos has a great video on this that'll tell you everything you need to know, and I'm definitely not going to be doing one. But basically, it's like a set bonus you can get in raids, and the sets work only in raids, but the actual individual things... So every gem... There's like 5 equipable, I believe, and there's like, you could only get 1 like total set bonus by getting 3 of the same type. The set bonuses only work in raid. These only drop in raid. Actually, there's a couple ways to get them outside of raiding. It's like there's a rep source that gives you a heroic item level 1. And then there's I think in Korthia, you get 226 ones. So you're able to actually like get them without going in the raid, a few of them at least. But yeah, so the set bonuses only work in raid, but the stats work everywhere else. So it's going to be something that you're going to want to get to do other content. It's interesting how Blizzard is looking at this because they've always kind of designed their game to where, like, you know, if you weave in between them and at least experience all of their content, you know, you gain benefits in other ones. I don't think this is necessarily ever really geared towards any specific content. Like, I think people said like rating was that in the last patch, but like when we killed the last boss on Mythic, most of our character's gear was from Mythic Plus and PvP, including BOEs, and now there's even less BOEs. So there's like this growing tension where like people have identified this game is like one mode for them. Like they identify as Mythic Plus players or raiders, although I feel like a lot of Mythic Plusers and raiders intermix. And then PvP is like kind of its own thing. So they've kind of changed PvP in a way to where like you would only ever really need to PvP outside of specifically the domination sockets. But there seems to be kind of like a tension or a balance between figuring out if they want this game to be something where you benefit from doing all 3 and something where you can get anything you want from just one. You know, I think Valor was a change made in that direction. I think the new PvP system was a change made in that direction. And in my personal opinion, I think that any player that wants to strive and go out to be better at another game mode should receive some kind of benefit in any game mode for that. You know, someone who just Mythic Pluses should not have all the exact same gear opportunities as someone who spends a good amount of time also doing raiding in Mythic Plus. I think that's fine. I know some people do not feel that way. You know, obviously if it's managed to an extent. You know, MMOs usually you should be rewarded for the time and like effort you put into stuff. So Valor obviously helped Mythic Plus a lot. I do hope with Valor that they eventually let you like upgrade your stuff to like at least Mythic base eye level, but you know, you also get that out of your cash, so it's kind of weird. Mythic Plus gear is like really broken early. Because that's definitely true in raiding. In raiding, if you want to be a raider in this game and you want to be the most optimal you can be in raid, you have to Mythic Plus and you have to PvP. Even after the PvP nerf to PvE gear, which I think is a good change. But it also shouldn't be big enough to where if you're a PvE player, if you don't want to PvP, you're not like screwed for that. But I don't think you are. Really, I promise you, none of your best in slot gear, if you're a PvEer, this patch is going to come from PvP. It'll be really good early. But like, it won't be BIS because its eye level will just be lower by the end. But at the maybe some trinkets. Sorry, maybe some trinkets for certain classes like badge and stuff. But like, generally speaking, it's not. I don't think one item is a problem. But early, it is good. Like 2100 eye level PvP gear will be good in PvE very early. So I think that's all okay. Let's see. Players who are not satisfied with the selection of gear that the Great Vault has provided them with for the week can now opt to receive a token that will let them choose a number of alternative rewards, including Anima, Stygia, and Soul Ash, which is good, right? Because before you only got Stygia, but now you can choose Soul Ash or Anima, which admittedly are all 3 kind of like meaningless sources of things in the next patch at least. But I know people were complaining about not being able to get enough Anima. I couldn't tell you. I have not farmed 1 Anima on purpose ever, but some people, that's their thing. The Imperial Ordnance Trinket now puts other on-use trinkets on a 40-second CD when used. Was 20 seconds. That is not good. I think, I'm not positive, but I believe that completely rips the double on-use Imperial Ordnance situation. So, but also, I'm okay with that. Because double on use is fucking cring. It's bad, man. Gladiator's Emblem on use health reduced by 30%. Cardboard Assassin now shares a cooldown with potions, and its stats no longer scale past level 35. This is the main change, right? Does that mean that it'll probably instantly die now? Because it's sharing a cooldown with potions is interesting, because there might be some scenarios where if it was no longer... Oh, it's one hit dead? Okay, so this is the important part. Because if they didn't do this last part, I would imagine that a 3-second trees was probably actually worth a pot cooldown in some scenarios. So I'm glad they did that. Things like this are always weird. But also, I believe that affects the tank meta, because I think there were some tanks that were enabled by this. Like, for example, if you want to bring Vengeance DH for higher tank damage and bringing a magic buff to your 2 magic users, you kind of needed cardboard in high keys, where I feel like Guardians could have made do without it. So it certainly like hurts the tank meta Mythic Plus. Just a complete guess, though. Love that. Pet battles. Nope. PvP. Oh, no. None of that. You won't see any PvP content from me. Nothing wrong with PvP, just not my thing. Professions. Also don't care. Rune carving. Rune carving vessel recipes can now be upgraded to higher levels via the optional reagent slot, and optional reagents can be accessed by uncovering the secrets of Korthia. Wow, Korthia. A new legendary currency, Soul Cinders, is available, also known as Super Mega Soul Ash, from completing Torghast layers 9 to 12, the Tormentors of Torghast event, and from Maw Assaults. It can be used to upgrade... Wait, I didn't realize that. Soul Cinders can be obtained from sources that are not just Torghast? Or are Maw Assaults kind of Torghast related? Looks like probably not a lot. It's probably like the amount of Soul Ash you were able to get last patch from the random like quest lines and scenarios. Okay, that's probably not a big deal at all. Is it a lot? It's like 30%. That's a good change. I didn't know that until right now. Fuck yeah. Good job, Blizzard. It can be used to upgrade legendaries. Yeah. New rune carving powers based on covenant abilities. Cool. New existing rune carving powers have been updated. Yeah, there's also additional slots for a lot of things, and this is they added today, very controversial. Newly created helm, neck, bracer, belt, and ring rune carving pieces will now also be created with a socket. There's a couple of things we don't know about this. Maybe you can log on PTR and test. Maybe someone has done it. But I know I tweeted earlier, I've heard from a couple of people, no one since I've said it earlier though, I've heard from a couple of people that you've been able to actually ticket your recently created legendary and say you created the wrong one and get your Soul Ash back. You do not, if you guys, just in case you haven't, by the way, do not craft fucking legendaries right now. No reason to. But if you have, try to ticket it if it's a socket item, unless you have like a one you can give from like the Stygia vendor. Another weird thing with legendaries, just so you guys are aware of it, is there's domination sockets now in the raid, and they haven't added those to legendaries. So if your legendary is in a domination slot or domination socket slot, you might want to craft it in a new slot. I would really wish Blizzard would create a system to do this much more organically rather than people having to farm. Like, you can't make the argument that, like, you know, I mean, unless you've just been AFK from Torghast, you certainly have enough Soul Ash to basically do whatever you want. But some people are coming back to the game, and it's just, in general, it feels bad. It's bad, right? So they should definitely do something about that. Also, I don't know if they're going to mention that here, but you can infinitely farm Soul Ash next patch. You can just keep doing Torghast runs. Permanently removes Ire the Jailer after completing a quest. Cool. Unlock riding mounts in the Maw and Korthia by completing the intro. Cool. Discover new rares. Cool. Make sure you guys clear your rares every day, by the way. New rep. Torghast. Total number of floors per run was now 5, was 6. Cool, makes it faster. There's also like new scoring system. You can like, by doing activities, you maintain like buffs by staying active in there. Very cool. There's new layers, which give you new stuff. Torments. Starting at layer 4, they're applied to increase the challenge. They're displayed on the HUD. Torments are selected per wing per day, and the existing torments are no longer applied. Love that. Whew, we're done. That took forever. Oh boy, I had to get a drink, man. So basically, love WoW, and stay lit.